Guys, it is Jen with Mother Time. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to head into the craft room to do some crafting. I have some really cute craft ideas to share with you. You can actually get a little peek at a few of them behind me. And some of these ideas include printables from my Country Kitchen Printable Collection that you can download for free on my blog. I'll include a link for that in the video description. You can simply download, print, and pop in a frame for easy peasy decorating or use in crafts like I'm going to share with you. So I cannot wait to show you these ideas. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee or hot tea, sit back, relax, and let's get to crafting. Here is a peek of the Country Kitchen Printable Collection. There are 3 designs in 3 different sizes. You can download it for free on my blog. I'll include a link in the video description. It comes in 3 sizes, 5x7, 8x10, or the label size, which I'm going to be using on all 3 projects today, which is a 3x4. So for the first one, I have this container from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add a couple light coats of apple barrel in the color Antique Parchment to the container. This is just creating the base for the color, and then I'm going to add a lot of texture and grunge it up with some cinnamon. And you could spray paint this too. I just decided to paint it. It was a little bit faster. I could dry it with my dryer, and also you have more variety of color when painting it. So I'm just adding a few simple light coats. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and then I'm going to get to work on the lid. And I know I've shown this method so many different times, but every time I do it, it just recreates a different style. And I want to make this look like an old rusty lid. So I'm just painting the lid with apple barrel. It's in a brown color. And then once that is dry, I'm going to add a coat of Mod Podge, sprinkle it with cinnamon, and then dab Mod Podge on top. And that will kind of seal it in. And you can create more layers. So if you miss a few spots, you can just go back. Or if you want it even thicker, you can go back and add some more and just keep doing that until you get the desired look. And it's going to create this really old rusty looking lid. And I always say the messier the better. So the more you create layers and just adding cinnamon and just having fun. I love doing these projects, and that's why you see me do these time and time again, because for me, this is what I have fun doing when I'm crafting. Like if I have to pick out one craft to do, like doing these projects are just very relaxing to me. I just love creating these, and then just the final look, it's like, wow. Like I'll show Wayne often afterwards, and he'll be like, I can't believe it was this or that, you know, to begin with, because it totally changes the look. And I mentioned a few weeks ago in a thrifting video how I went to a primitive market, and it was so much fun, but so many things that I saw in a lot of the different booths were similar items like this. So it's fun to recreate them at home and create them exactly the way you want to look. So here's the lid. And as you see, I was just continuing to add the layers and building those layers. And then I'm going to add my dryer now if it's a warm sunny day. I know I often say you could just stick it outside and let it bake in the sun, but my dryer gets really, really hot. This is like one of those high-tech dryers. So this dries really fast, and look at how neat that looks on there. Just like that, you could be done. So hopefully this inspires you to do something like this, depending on, you know, the style of decor you want to do. But I'm going to continue to grunge this up. So now I have some paint, some cinnamon, and some Mod Podge. And I'm just going to go over this more. And again, building those layers and having fun, just kind of adding cinnamon, adding some paint on top, because adding the paint on the cinnamon layer really creates like it was like rusty and then repainted. And you'll see at the end how this turns out, but it's just building that texture also on this as well. So after my first layer of just kind of brushing cinnamon on, I started sprinkling cinnamon right onto the container and then brushing it with my brush, adding more, again, building those layers. I sound like a broken record, but that's truly what you're doing. And it's going to give it a very chippy, very rusty look. You can see there how it kind of gives it that chippy look, but yet just making a lot of texture. So you'll see at the end, it's, you know, you got to trust the process of how it turns out. Now I'm going to get my label, and this is the Pantry Good one, which again you can download for free. I'll include a link in the video description. And then I'm just going to tear the edges so it's a very torn look. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the container, add my label like that, and then add Mod Podge on top and really distress it so it blends right in. And that's the fun of creating these. You can go as much or as little as you want. If you want it just maybe a little distressed and chippy looking, you don't have to add as much, but I'm going all out and really giving it a distressed chippy look. So that is how it turned out. So now I have some blue homespun to coordinate with the images on the printables. And I love this collection, and everything you're going to see in today's video is all going to coordinate. So you create this collection, and I love doing it for these crafts. It's not just doing one, but just doing a bunch of things. So now we're going to move on to the next one. I'm going to show you everything here coming up when I get the first couple done. And now I have this jar. This is just a jalapeno jar. I got this just for the jar. I don't like jalapenos. I tried one when I opened the jar. I still can't do it. They're too hot for me. Let me know if you like jalapeno slices, but they're just too spicy for me. But anyways, I'm going to do the same thing, very similar techniques, but I want to show you how you can use similar techniques and create different projects, because this one might be my favorite. So anyways, adding a few coats of paint, just a light layer, letting it dry, adding another layer. I'm using apple barrel in the color parchment, and then we're going to grunge this up and wait until you see how this one turns out. Once the paint is dry, working in sections, I'm going to add a coat of Mod Podge and then sprinkling it lightly with some cinnamon. So just a little cinnamon, and then I'm going to dab some Mod Podge on top, also brushing it in a little bit too. And I'm just, again, doing light coats and then just building the layer. So afterwards, I'll add a little bit more cinnamon on top, dabbing it more until I get that desired look. So sometimes I go very heavy-handed on the cinnamon to get a very rusty look, but here I want to give it more of a distressed chippy look. So just building the layers lightly with just little brushes and coats of cinnamon at a time. And then I continue to do that around the jar, and then I'm even going back over with a little bit of that paint on top of it too. And again, that's building the layer, making it look old and chippy. And then once I get that desired look, I'm adding, you can see here, adding some more of the paint on top. And you can see that cinnamon and that chippiness coming through the paint. I just love the way this looks, and you would never know this was just a jalapeno jar. And now I have the label, and I'm using the honey label. And again, doing the same thing. I'm just tearing it so it has that torn look. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the label, and then I'm going to attach it to the jar. And that's what I love about these projects too. Not only are they fun, but I'm repurposing items that I had on hand, and it just gives it a whole new look. And if you love country and primitive and cottage, this looks so cute on a shelf, in a vignette, and you can make these seasonally too. And that's why I love this grouping, when you see everything in today's video, how it all comes together. So now I have a piece of homespun, again, some blue homespun. I also have a piece of cheesecloth, and I'm going to attach it to the top, and I'm going to have to take it off because since this is a honey jar, I want to add some honey dripping down too. So I'm going to do that next. But at first I added the top with the homespun, and then I'm going to take it off because I thought I could work around it, but I didn't want to get it too messy. So here it is with the homespun on top. You could even rust up the lid too, like I did on the other one if you wanted to do that. So many ways that you can customize this. So now I'm going to make honey dripping from the top of the jar. So I added some Mod Podge just to a jar along with some instant coffee. I add quite a bit of instant coffee, and I'm going to mix it together. You're going to see the instant coffee is going to kind of like melt into the Mod Podge. As you can see here, it kind of just dissolves. I love doing this. And once I get that consistency I want, now I'm going to drizzle it on top of the jar, and then it's going to start dripping down. And then eventually when it gets just to where I want it, I'm going to turn the jar over so it doesn't drip anymore farther down. And then I'm also going to take my brush too, and then I'm going to take my handy dandy heat gun, and that'll really seal it in and stop it from dripping too. But I tilt it over, and then once it's dry, look at how cool that is. Don't you love that? And that was just Mod Podge and instant coffee mixed together. So now I'm going to attach my homespun back on top. I'm also going to add a little bit of Sweet Annie. And you guys, I just love the way this turned out. And here it is all done. Now you could use any size jar you have on hand. And that, like I said, that's the beauty of doing these, is just repurposing things that you have, like a coffee can. So I like to use my heat gun also too when I have stickers that are just difficult to get off. A heat gun always works, and a hair dryer will work too, but any kind of like heat works to kind of take that glue off, and then you can remove the labels easily. So now I have some just white parchment paper. This is actually just from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to add some Mod Podge to my coffee container. And then I crinkle up the parchment paper just to give it some more texture. Now, if you wanted to skip this layer, you could, but I just like the way that it just adds, again, that texture on this. But you could technically skip this layer if you wanted to and just paint the container as well. So I'm just Mod Podging that on and then cutting off the excess, because once I have the Mod Podge, I had to add a little bit more of the parchment paper on the back because it was a little short. But then I'm also going to add just a little light coat of paint on top too. And the reason I'm doing this is just so it matches everything else, because I love creating these collections that all coordinate together. And I just add one quick coat of paint on that and then let it dry, just so anything coming through will be just that nice little antique parchment color. So now I want to distress this very similar to how I did the honey jar. I'm adding a coat of Mod Podge, lightly sprinkling it with cinnamon, and then dabbing and brushing the cinnamon on top. This is just, again, creating that rusty layer to the jar. But then I'm also going to go in with some coffee, instant coffee, since this is going to be a coffee container and an old rusty looking coffee container. And I'm going to be sprinkling some instant coffee too. So using similar items in different projects, creating different looks. So when I used the instant coffee for the honey jar, I made it, mixed it with the Mod Podge to give it that dripping honey. But here I'm going to be sprinkling the instant coffee on, and it kind of just dissolves into the Mod Podge and it creates just a really cool look. So you'll see that coming up here soon. But first I'm going just over the container with cinnamon and the Mod Podge. I'm also adding some more paint on top too, and just having fun building those layers. So now here is my instant coffee, and I sprinkle it on top of the wet Mod Podge, and then I'm dabbing it into the wet Mod Podge, and it's going to dissolve. It's like magic. It just creates this really cool look. And you'll see on the last project in today's video, these grubby jars I love making, and it's just Mod Podge and coffee too. And I can't believe I've never shared these before. Well, maybe I have, but wait till you see how they coordinate with everything else in this collection. And I'm just adding it kind of around and on top, just making it look like the coffee is just kind of been there for so long. Now I have my label again that I tore, and I'm going to Mod Podge it onto the jar or onto the container. And then I'm going to go around and just kind of blend it in. So adding some of that coffee around, a little bit of cinnamon, working with just the same things, the cinnamon, the Mod Podge, the coffee, but it creates these really cool containers that I just love decorating with. And now here is the lid, and I'm just going to add some Mod Podge on that. I'm going to sprinkle it with cinnamon. Now I'm going to add a lot of cinnamon to this, very similar to the first project where I did the lid, because I want this to look like an old rusty lid. And then I'm dabbing Mod Podge on top to seal it in, and that's, once it dries, it gives it a very rusty look. So once I have it coated with the cinnamon, now I'm dabbing Mod Podge on top, and that is sealing in the cinnamon. But again, I always say, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the messier the better. I like to grab some of that loose cinnamon and add that back into. Now I often take, if I have a lot of extra cinnamon, I will add that back into the container so I'm not wasting it. So never think a lot of this goes to waste. And you can see here, look at how cool that looks. Doesn't it look great? Now you could add a little wooden knob to the top of it, but I thought which would be cool, because I wanted to add some homespun, but I didn't want to tie it around like I'm doing on the other projects, but I still wanted that little pop of homespun. So I took some wire, I doubled it up, and then I'm just adding the homespun around it. I'm just spinning it around, twirling it around the wire, hot gluing it to the ends, and then I'm just adding a little slit into the top of the lid, and then just popping in that wire so it looks like a little handle. Instead, just a little different. I didn't want to tie the the homespun around like I was on the other ones, just to make it a little different. But I'm tying a little piece of torn homespun here just to add it, make it a little different. And of course, a little bit of dried sweet Annie too. I love this, the way this turned out. I mean, so cute for a kitchen cabinet, or if you have like a little shelf in a kitchen. It's so cute. I love it. But don't worry, and you'll see everything coming up here soon on how everything looks together. So now I had this pan. I got this like package of pans from the thrift store. I'm like, these will be great for crafting. And it's been a while since I've made a faux pie. You guys know how much I love making these faux pies. It's been a while since I have, and I was just itching to make one. I said, for this collection, I need a pie. So I used one of these old, this probably isn't even a pie pan. I think it was a cake pan, but it still works. It still will create the same look. So if you see at the thrift store, you know, some old pie dishes and you want to recreate these two, this is the perfect project for this. So now I have some homespun. Well, first I added in just some stuffing. I hot glue that into the bottom, and then I want to make sure that it's kind of built up on the top and then kind of comes down. And then I'm using some homespun to coordinate, and I'm just hot gluing around the edge and then adding my homespun and then trimming off the excess. And it's funny because after I took that off, I'm like, oh, this kind of looks cute just like this, and maybe I'll just kind of embellish this. So that's why it took me a few minutes before I started adding the quote unquote crust, but I kind of liked it just like this. I'm like, maybe I'll just do something a little different. But I wanted to recreate one of my pies that you've seen me make throughout the years. I just love making these. Now, you could also add with the stuffing too. You could add some essential oils or some scent or some potpourri, and these could smell too. But I didn't have any on hand in my craft room. But I like doing that from time to time. So now I have some torn muslin, and then I just go around working in sections. I add some hot glue, and then I just like to add a little bit of a ruffle, so it creates this really cute crust. So I just kind of pinch it in as I create this ruffle going around for a really cute crust. And what I love about this one, it's a full-size pie. I often share like the mini pies, and if you've never seen any of the mini pies that I've made before, there are plenty on other videos on my channel, also on my blog too. I've done so many different ones, from lemon to pumpkin to apple, and they are so cute, but they are so fun to make too. So let me know in the comments if you've ever made any of the mini faux pies that I've shared before. But this one is a full-size one, and I'm like, this will look so cute. I just got this old pie stand at the primitive market that I was telling you about, and I'm like, this will be so cute on there. And I'm doing this one a little bit different because sometimes I will sprinkle it with some like glitter to give it like a, you know, a nice sugary crust, but I'm not going to do that on this one. Look at how cute that looks. Doesn't it look cute? So now I'm just going to make a easy rag bow, which basically I just take some extra fabric, some homespun and some of the muslin, and I just kind of twist it. I decide on what size I want to do, and I just kind of loop it back and forth really quick. It's a rag bow, so it's not going to be perfect. And then I take an extra piece and I kind of tie it really tight in the ends, and then I trim off the little loopy parts, and I have a rag bow. And I'm like, this will look so cute. First, I was going to kind of do it on the side of the pie, but I'm like, it's the cutest topper in the center of the pie, and wait until you see. So I'm going to hot glue that to the center, then add a little button, and then make a cute little stamp tag. You guys, if you've never made any of these faux pies before, this is your sign to make one because they are so cute. So at first I was going to put it more like at an angle on the side because that's sometimes what I do, and then add a button and the little stamp tag. And so it looks really cute like that. But then I'm like, once I put it in the center of the pie, I was like, that is just the cutest topper. So here it is kind of at the end. And isn't that cute too? I mean, you can't go wrong either way. But once I put it in the center, it was like, that is the spot. So that's why I didn't do like sprinkling it with the glitter to make it look like a sugary crust that I sometimes do, just to kind of crunch it up. I did this one a little different. First I had this bigger button, but I thought it was too big, so I just had a small little button. Oh, you guys, it is so cute. And then I must have not taped the footage of me stamping, but I made a little stamp tag that said pie. And then I'm crinkling that little tag up. Now I just use a piece of just some craft paper from a roll of craft paper. It's just an extra piece. I kind of just cut the edges so I can always customize the size of my tags. And then I'm going to distress it with a little bit of antique wax. And then I'm going to hot glue it underneath the rag bow. And this is the cutest pie and coordinates so cute with the rest of this collection. Don't you love the way this turned out? I love it. So now I'm going to take a few minutes and just kind of let you see all of the 4 things that I made, but don't go away. There is one last thing coming up in this video that will complete this collection. So I'm going to show you all these things, and then I have one more project coming up today. Last up for today's video, I'm going to make little grubby jars. These are the perfect addition for this collection, and they are so fun and easy to make too. So I have these little jars. This was just a cookie butter dessert jar that I had from Costco, but any kind of mini jar or any size jar will work. You could use baby food jars. Dollar General even has some cute jars out right now that have corks in them. Whatever you want to use. So I'm adding a coat of matte Mod Podge. Any kind of Mod Podge will work. While the Mod Podge is still wet on the jar, I'm going to sprinkle it generously with instant coffee, coat the entire jar with that instant coffee, and then I'm going to dab my brush and press my brush into that instant coffee, and as it dries, that's when it starts dissolving and the magic happens. So you'll see that coming up here very soon. It's such a fun technique and gives it that really cool, primitive, grubby jar look. As you can see here, I'm pressing the instant coffee into that wet Mod Podge, and then I'm going to use my heat gun to speed up the drying process. And you can see how it's already getting that glossy look, but I'm going to continue to build the layers and going over it with adding some more of that Mod Podge, because that Mod Podge on top of the instant coffee, that's when it dissolves and gives it that glossy look. I continue doing the same process with just the Mod Podge and instant coffee. That's all it is. Adding a little bit of Mod Podge, sprinkling it with instant coffee, dabbing a little bit more Mod Podge on top of that. And then once it dries, that's when you get that glossy look. And that's the look I want to achieve around the entire jar. So I'm going to continue to do that until it's done. You can see here how cool it's turning out. If you've never made these before and you love those grubby jars, they are so fun to make, and you can use whatever size jar. You can even add a label on these, but I'm just keeping these plain to coordinate with everything else in this collection. Once the jars are dry, I top it with a piece of torn coffee stained muslin and wrap it with a piece of torn homespun. I'm also going to add a few little sprigs of dried sweet Annie to these sweet little grubby jars that are the perfect addition to this collection. I also go around and tear off a little excess muslin, and this is how cute these jars are. Don't you love them? And you could use whatever color homespun or whatever kind of fabric you want that matches your decor, but these are just so fun to make, and I love tucking these in with everything else. And here is a final look and how they coordinate with everything else in today's collection. Okay, guys, that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got some crafting inspo too. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you did, and let me know in the comments which craft is your favorite or one that you're gonna make too. I would love to know. You can also follow me on all social media at Mother Time. I love sharing a lot of behind the scenes too, so make sure you're checking out my stories. You can also check out my blog, mothertime.com. And if you've enjoyed this video and you are not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to click that subscribe button so you never miss any of these videos. Okay, you guys, thanks again for hanging out with me here today, and I will see you guys very soon in the next video. Bye, guys.